am getting such attention. Everybody gives a mention. Get a mansion, get a pension. I'm getting famous. They follow me, they swallow me, fighting for a piece of me. But my act is all they see. I'm getting famous. All this crap with people clapping, feeling scared of all that's happening. Blame the fame for scaring life away. Please love me, not what I do. Love me if I'm no one to. Please see through my screen of fame and stay. Curtains drop around a hurt that no big name or money can set free. When all I wanted was for him to see how many others would love me. See, they love me, see, they love me, see, they love me. I show my show, so you won't know how lonely I'll be when you go. Boxed inside a TV show, but getting famous. My name is up in neon lights, too bright to get near in the night. Fame smiles days and sleeps in fancy silk designer label fright. See, they love me, see, they love me, see, they love me. Won't you love me too? Who needs you? I'm getting famous.
Well, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed that slideshow. I'm now going to send it over to our moderator, Maureen Rubin. Maureen, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm wearing my red too, like all of us. Thanks, Daphne. That was so great. And she put the whole thing together. She's like our super tech and super wonderful person. We do have a special guest. Lots of you know her, not only from many of the things that you saw in the slideshow, but also for her relationship that she's had for quite a while with Jewish Women's Theater, which we now, of course, call the Braid. But she's here today to talk about her book, Odd Woman Out. I read it. I loved it. I know you will too. As you know, Melanie's Abby Friedman Artist in Residence, which means she's one of the people who we always enjoy having, and she's always great. She's going to share a lot about her extensive show business background with her today, and she's written a book that's absolutely terrific that has stuff about her show business career and about her family and her life and her love, but mostly, since it's Valentine's Day, we're going to concentrate on her loves. And I do need to tell you, she made a lot of mistakes, but spoiler alert, it all turns out great. Melanie got married at 65. Melanie, welcome.
Thank you, Maureen. It's great to be here on a Sunday morning at the Braid. I've been watching them for months now, and I so enjoy them. And to be featured in one is a terrific honor. And to be talking to you is a great honor too.
Well, I feel exactly the same. The slideshow was so much fun. We saw lots of places and costumes and famous people: Gregory Hines, Merv Griffin, Jay Leno, Andy Kaufman. And then we saw this guy. I wonder if the audience can tell us, knows who he is. Daphne?
Yep, 1 second. Let me get that set up for you.
Worth it, really.
Yes, it is.
Who is this mystery man?
Oh, there we go.
Anybody got a guess? You can put it in the chat room if you do. Oh, I see lots of hands. Melanie, who is that guy?
We all know him to be our new Jewish American hero, Larry David, a hero of the cynics and the misanthropes. Yeah, we worked together in New York as stand-ups. And then when we both came out to do Fridays, which is a late night comedy show in the early 80s, it was like my cousin was there because we were familiar to one another. We traded apartments, and it's been wonderful to see how he has soared. It's been remarkable, actually, because he was such a grouch and never seemed to be satisfied. And hopefully now he is. I think he has like $900 billion in the bank. So
Not bad, but he doesn't have that head of hair anymore. We have to.
No, it's this big lament.
One of the things you're best known for, and known to our grandchildren and children for, is voicing two characters on Rugrats in their series and 3 of their movies. Who were these guys?
This is Dee Dee Pickles, and she was the mother of the Rugrats in the last iteration of the show. A new iteration of the show, which I'm not connected with, is coming up. But for 30 years, I've been this voice of Dee Dee Pickles,
And also the voice of her mother from the old country,
Minke. Minke narrated the Hanukkah special and the Passover special, and has always been a wonderful character, dear to my heart. She kind of brought back the grandmothers who passed away when I was so young into my life.
It is so cool that you can turn that on and off so fast. I'm in awe of your ability to do that. Your career was amazing. You started go-go dancing at 14, I understand, and
That
then
was
you
my
did.
first paid job. Yes, I was discovered at a bar mitzvah. My partner and I were discovered dancing wholesomely at a bar mitzvah and hired to back up the Ronettes and the Crystals. They were trying to create crossover energy for the Black groups. And so as a consequence, I and this other very wholesome girl, we had these great little routines, all dance steps. And we made our first real money at 14 and 15.
And it went on from there. And it's so cool, all the things that you did. And you always seemed so confident and together when you were performing. Did anybody you meet ever intimidate you?
Yes, I was easily intimidated, but I had a little trick I learned to do, which was that whenever I was scared of these iconic characters I was going to be meeting, like Johnny Carson or Robert De Niro or Martin Scorsese, I would say curse words under my breath. I would be, saying F you, Johnny. And while I was smiling and being charming, it gave me a sort of an inner power, that kind of anger or self-entitlement, to face them off. And it was amazing how duplicitous I was. I mean, I talk about that in the book, that I could behave one way while feeling a completely different way. I think we all do that from time to time, but I was very facile at it, and it made me suspicious of myself.
Well, you certainly behaved in many of your roles. As we saw on the slide, you were always getting married. You always had a wedding dress on. But I was wondering if, with all of this stuff going on in your life, were you also looking for love, or were you just too busy?
Well, I was busy, but I always had one eye out, looking for a relationship, looking for the man of my dreams. One of my challenges was that I was very attracted to men who made me laugh. And of course, in the comedy business, everybody does. So I was constantly falling in love. I mistook laughter for love because that was a pigment in my childhood. If we all laughed together, we felt love in the room. If we didn't laugh, it felt depressing. So I made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Well, I have a question because I bet that when you were out there and so many people were seeing you and they wanted to be at least with the character you were playing, did you ever date a fan?
Well, I didn't deliberately date fans. I had a lot of interesting mail that came, but the most extraordinary interest I had was I was doing my first live theater after I had become somewhat of a girl du jour on this late night comedy show. And the play was the West Coast premiere of March of the Falsettos, which had been an off-Broadway hit in New York. And opening night, we were all getting telegrams and flowers, but I got a cage
a bird cage wrapped in wrapping paper. And I ripped off the paper, and the cast and I observed a homing pigeon and a wheel of Gouda and a bottle of Dom Perignon in the cage, with a little bag of birdseed and a note from a man who identified himself as Dudley, a big fan. And he said, "I'm coming to your matinee in 8 weeks. Would you consent to having dinner with me? If so, please write yes on the little note and put it on the pigeon's leg and set her free. She knows how to get back to Texas, where he owned a brewery and a farm. And if the answer is no, I understand, but I'll enjoy watching you on stage in 8 weeks." Well, this was the most original, proposition I'd ever had. I mean, I remember one incident where I had a red nightgown sent to me by the USS Bremerton. Apparently I was their pinup girl on the submarine. And they made me this beautiful nightgown, and on the front of the nightgown, it read, "Submariners do it deeper." So that was just one of the samples of the kinds of mail I was getting, because I was kind of sexually objectified, on the series. And lots of novel propositions from prisoners, came into. But anyway, so I got very attached to this bird. I didn't want to return her. I didn't want to send her away. I needed something, real in the midst of all this showbiz stuff that was going on, with the paparazzi. It was all very new to me and kind of alienating. So I kept the pigeon for about 6 weeks, and I fed her. I would take her home on the Monday off, and I just loved her. And she came back to the theater with me one day, and I announced to the cast and crew, "I know she's our mascot. We'd named her Midge, but I'm going to set her free with a no on her foot today." So I put a little no on her little foot, put it in the ring, affixed it to her leg, and opened the window and threw her up into the air over the Huntington Hartford parking lot. And she tried valiantly to fly. She hadn't had any exercise in 6 weeks. And then suddenly she gave up, and then she plummeted like a rock and hit a Cadillac that was parked in the parking lot. And we all screamed. She was just like a little bit of feathers left. And it was just so harrowing. So before the show started that day, I called Dudley and I said, "I'm so terribly, terribly sorry. We all adored this bird. She was our mascot." He said, "Yes, it's just a great loss. She was my prize homing pigeon." And he said, "So what was your answer?" And so I lied and I said, "It was yes, but let me treat you to lunch on the day that you come." And he said, "Okay." See, he showed up at the stage door, and I knew he wasn't going to be very good looking, because attractive men rarely work that hard, at courtship. But I took him to lunch at the Brown Derby across the street, and we chewed some Cobb salads, and I just felt so alienated. And I just wondered, if I had destroyed Midge, how would I ever come home to myself? I just felt so horrible about it. So that's one of the little chapters in the book, actually. I just summed it up.
And it's great. And it's an example of how the book makes you laugh and cry at the same time, because you're hysterical about this homing pigeon, and then you're so sad when she gets killed.
It was terrible.
But that was so if you were too busy to date and your career was soaring, did you ever want to get married?
I did. I mean, I was in my mid to late 30s, and I started thinking, oh, well, I always thought I'd have kids, but the clock is running out. So I made a really, hard effort to be meeting people. I was much more social. Outside of showbiz, I was not preferring a man in showbiz. Actually, I thought someone outside the business would be a good reflection for me. And I was highly motivated by loneliness, really motivated by loneliness, and not having a family that I felt at home with. So I was looking for somebody that felt like family, not just a strong attraction, but somebody that felt Hamisha to me. And I had a series of tries, and they failed. So then I decided to go on the internet. This was like in my 50s is when the internet dating thing started. And I had 3 really disappointing breakups. It was very, very, very disappointing. I was seeing this really nice Jewish man, wonderful guy. It was around 9/11, and we really clung to one another, being ex-New Yorkers through that. And I very much felt like I needed protection during that time. I don't know, many of you may have felt that way. The world felt unsafe after 9/11. And he said he would protect me, he would take care of me. And then he had a cat a bit of a feral cat. And whenever I tried to pet this cat would nip and bite at me and scratch. And he would always comfort the cat instead of me. So at a certain point, I realized protecting me was not going to be a priority in this relationship. And I wanted to feel that I came first before the cat. So that dissipated and ended. It's always heartbreaking when they end. Sometimes when they end, the heartbreak is longer than the relationship was. And in that case, it was. Then there was another really promising high pedigree guy from the music industry who came courting. And one day we got into his Land Rover to go to dinner, and he was parking the car between two closely parked cars. And he backed into the car behind us very hard. And I heard scraping. And I said, I think you've hit the car behind you. And he looked at me and he said, do you think we should just take off? And whoop, you know, my heart just like cut off. All my excitement about this guy just totally dissipated. Then you have to sort of gradually get out of it without a lot of accusations and acrimony. And then there was a third one, a guy that I really liked, the Superior Court judge, actually, a real straight, wonderful, protective, courtly man. And we were doing really, really well. And we were starting to get more affectionate toward one another. And one night over dinner, he took my hand and he said, I need to tell you that I am in kidney failure and I've just been put on the list for a donor. And at that moment, I felt like I'm going to take my kidneys and get out of here, because whoever is in a relationship with this man is going to have a lot of responsibility, including the expectation of a donation. And I just was not in love with him sufficiently to make that kind of sacrifice, going to dialysis with him all the time and stuff. So that one faded too. And then it took me a long time to recover. I just, go ahead. I'm sorry. I've been
No, I was going to say, yet you kept trying, and this is where it gets juicy, audience. I told you there might be a happy ending in store. You did meet somebody special during a computer date, and I think you wrote about it in your book. And one of my favorite stories. Could you read it for us now?
Great setup, Maureen. I have to say, I really have been.
First, you should show the cover of your book, just in case.
Oh, okay. This is the book. It's called Odd Woman Out: Exposure and Essays and Stories. Very proud of it. And it's been out since February 2nd. You can get immediate gratification if you want to give a gift to yourself for Valentine's Day, and you can download the Audible book, which I narrate, or you can download the ebook. In any case, I decided to give it one more try because I was in my 60s. I was 62 actually. And I thought, it's now or never. I have to find myself a companion to share the rest of my life. I have my own house. I'm not really needful of anyone for anything, you know, transactional. I just want companionship to enjoy my life. So I went on Match.com, and I decided that instead of waiting till guys chose me, I would begin to do the choosing and select a life and a man that I wanted. So I went online and I found two promising guys. And then the first one that I agreed to go out with, this is what happened. Later that day, on my first phone call with, let's call him S, he asked to take me to appetizers. I sent him websites of 3 different places, $1 sign, $2 signs, and $3 signs. He chose 3. How promising, I thought. He's making an investment already. And we met on a Monday night for happy hour. And getting even happier, we decided to go to fine dining. 1 4-hour conversation protected so much good emotional chemistry that he felt compelled to say to me, you know, I've been seeing somebody for the last 6 weeks, but I know she's not the one. And I felt my all my erogenous zones kind of retract, all my moistening parts dehydrate. And then I said, well, I'm glad you told me, thank you. And then he patted his pants, ransacked his jacket pockets, sputtering and apologizing. He had forgotten his wallet. That's what they all said. That's what they all say. I said, my heart's sinking. I slapped down a credit card very noisily. And he insisted on sending me a check if I would give him my home address. When I hesitated, he asked if he could take me to an End Violence Toward Women event on Thursday, and he would pay me back in person. How manipulative a man might this be, I thought to myself, but he was so apologetic, and my desire for him to keep his word and give me my money back was so strong, I agreed to meet him. So we met for the show. He handed me a check. And we had an even better time. And he asked me out for the following Monday night. And I confessed to him that I didn't want to put my heart at risk if this wasn't real. I didn't want to be his weeknight woman while he was stupping somebody else on the weekends. I said I would not communicate with him any further while he was seeing this other woman. I'll end it, he said. I said, well, please don't do that for me because I have no idea what we are, but I don't think I can see you again if you're being dishonest with this other woman and with yourself. So away I flew to the East Coast, scared about losing, but proud of myself for taking a stand for what I wanted, for not settling for sloppy seconds, and for not betraying a woman I'd never met. Well, I didn't hear from him for 2 weeks. And as I'm packing to head home, I go to look at his profile one last time to say goodbye before I let the wishful glimmer of an us go. But it has been removed. Maybe he has found the one, the website teases. Maybe you will too. And at that very moment, he called and he asked if he could fetch me from the airport the following Saturday weekend night, and I was returning. And I said yes. And despite the delay from 8 p.m. until 10 p.m. until 2 a.m., he waited for me at LAX and he hugged me when I arrived and he took me to an all-night diner for a serious talk over steak and eggs. And that conversation continued.
Indeed, it did. It's really interesting to hear your account of that and of so many other exciting things. So things are going pretty well with this possible Mr. Right, I understand. But then some obstacles arose. I think the audience would like to hear one more treat from your book. You can show the cover again if you want.
Oh, okay.
To let us know how things were going. How did they develop? There it is. Here it is. Here she is again, ladies and gentlemen, from her book.
Yes, from the book. This is a story called Deadly Betting, or it's a portion of a story called Deadly Betting. Soon our waking hours were not enough to contain our enthusiasm. It was time to take that big next step and sleep together, but not to have sex. No, we weren't ready for that. Just to sleep together. I'm shy, I said, about moving too fast. Me too, he said, but our being together feels inevitable. Oh, I said, thrilled. Well, I must confess I sleep in baggy cotton stuff. So do I, he exclaimed. I'm a pillow-holic, I confessed. Me too, he cried, I have 6. I like him soft, I whispered. I like him hard, he implied. I'm a morning person. Well, I'm a night guy. I'm a light sleeper. I snore. I have earplugs, I offered. I have a sleep apnea machine. No, we cried. How could such daytime companionship coexist with such nighttime incompatibility? We had too much going for us. Spending a night together would be our Everest. We embarked on the climb equipped with the coziest of t-shirts and shorts with 2,000 thread count pillow covers and sheets and crept onto his wall-to-wall extra firm California king. Living alone so long, I hadn't realized how bony I had become. My ribs were unable to tolerate his arm and my neck incapable of resting on his shoulder for more than a minute. We put pillows in the painful parts and patience in the learning curve. The third night, delirious from lack of sleep, I earplugged and blindfolded myself into sensory deprivation as he read in the prison floodlight, sweeping his half of the acreage. What a relief. Until it turned off the light, then his noisy breathing degenerated into multisyllabic snores, punctuated by snorts of near suffocation. I felt like I had to keep a vigil so he wouldn't die on me. At 4 a.m., I discovered that if I made regular little kissing sounds, I could interrupt his sleep patterns and his snores and get intermittent snatches of sleep with pillows around my ears. The next morning, we awoke to debrief. boy, do you snore? I said. Yeah. Well, you make these weird little sucking noises all night. Infatuation drowned out the need for rest, as lust came creeping and sex came leaping and came again. Living together would be the next logical step. And that's all for now.
How badly did he snore?
Well, I realized I was falling in love with him because rather than seeing it as an adversity, I began to admire how talented he was in his snoring. He could, sound like a donkey or a flock of geese. He could honk, with his snore. He sounded like growling tigers or hidden kittens. His animal impersonations were amazing. And at a certain point, I had to evaluate which I needed more, love or sleep. I'm going to read one last paragraph from Deadly Betting. After a year of sleeping most nights together, I awoke amazed at the creature comfort subsuming our lives. My free-floating anxiety was sinking in his ocean of devotion. Nothing had ever warmed my hands like his, my feet like his, my heart like his. I decided that ours was a love that was worth losing sleep.
Oh, that's so sweet. And I've been telling you that the book was relatable. Well, I don't know about you, but I really related to that one. That was a very good
A lot of
exercise.
women my age do relate to that. Breathing isn't as easy as it was in our 30s at a certain point. And Stan, he was the sweetest man by day, but by night he was a sociopath. I mean, he would like turn over with the covers and pull them completely off of me, or he would like throw the pillows all over the room. And if I crept away to the guest room, I'd just come back and I'd find like bedlam in the bed. There was like, everything was on the ground except him. So.
And then every morning you have to make the bed, and it should take 5 minutes, and instead it takes an hour to get everything back in.
Well, that's why we just have a duvet cover. It just makes it all so much easier. It covers a multitude of sheets and blankets and problems. So
Maybe your next book should be about housekeeping tips.
yeah, right. I don't think so. Look at my office. It's crazy in here.
Well, in addition to your love stories in your book, you do talk about some things, and one of them that I found most interesting was your decision to become a writer. I know you always wrote a little bit, but this was big. And you wrote in your book, quote, "Now that I'm 65, I learn about myself from what I write, not from how others react. Instead of peering through the headache of seeing how I'm being seen, I see. Words do the heavy lifting my performing body used to do." Does that describe your relationship with writing? Because I really love how you said that.
Well, writing was always something that took up the slack for me between acting jobs. I was always writing screenplays or plays. Since I was a little girl, I used to have poetry published in the New Haven Register when I was a child. And I had my first play produced when I was in the 4th grade. They put it on in my class, and they invited other New Haven County students to come and see it. It was thrilling, but I didn't get the lead in that play that I wrote, so I decided I would be an actor. So that was a turn I took for 40 years, and I've done very well at it, very fortunate. But then in my 50s, roles for women begin slacking off when you get to be in your 50s. They have not changed that demographic yet. Unfortunately, there's like 10 men to 1 in most television series and movies. And I was on this series, The Rugrats, until I was about 53, 54. And then this vast gulf opened up around me full of feelings. And I realized that I could extrude feelings that had been in my body and expressed on a stage through words on the page. As an actor, one's goal tends to be to move the audience to laughter, to tears, to deep thought. And I realized that if I really got good at it, I would be able to move people one-on-one with writing, that I wouldn't have to be singing and dancing and improvising on stage all the time. I could really craft pieces that touched me, and hopefully I could communicate them to others in a way that would touch them. So it was a difficult transition because I love people. We all do. I mean, we're all confined right now, but I love creating with other people. That's why I was in so many ensemble shows and plays, and was in a lot of improv troupes where we all collaborated to create wonderful things bigger than the sum of our parts. And but I was going to be on my own a lot in my beautiful house that I had bought with my money from television. And I learned to be alone with my emotionality and channel it appropriately. Certainly had a lot of trauma to feed on from my early years, a lot of heartbreak from my dating years. And it became very satisfactory for me to actually be alone with my imagination and imagine an audience of one absorbing my words. And that's a big motivator for me now.
I think that's great. And to return to love, two questions. One is, you pretended to be in love a lot in your career. And
Yeah.
in fact, you had a very juicy first kiss, didn't you?
Well, I had a lot of, high school kisses and college
I
kisses.
meant your screen kiss.
My stage kiss, my first big stage kiss in New York on Broadway was with Raul Julia, on whom I had a terrific crush. I mean, he was such a beautiful soul, beautiful man, a beautiful soul, beautiful actor, beautiful voice. And I had to do love scene with him in a body stocking that was painted with much bigger parts than I actually had. And during a preview performance one night, he was playing a space age garbage collector, and I was playing a nymph from the planet Earth. And at one point, his belt buckle got stuck in my nylon costume, and we were trapped together in this awkward clinch until they could take a dark moment and separate us. And then his fiance was like in the wings. I mean, he was getting married very soon after the show would close. And it was just the most humiliating, first Broadway kiss one could imagine having. But I got to kiss a lot of great guys, I have to say, in my career so far.
But the greatest of all was your husband, right?
Yes.
So you did get married, which is very exciting. And if you remember the slideshow, the very last slide was of you getting married, which I think is very exciting. And I was just wondering that you hadn't been married very long when COVID struck. And I was wondering what it's like to get married at your late age and then have to live with somebody 24/7 for the last year. How'd that go? How's it going? Did you write one more story that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I did, as a matter of fact, Maureen. I had thought that because of COVID, we'd all be really claustrophobic, those of us shut in with our main squeezes. I was very happy I wasn't on my own, but really concerned about spending so much time with my husband named Stan. And so I wrote this Love in the Time of COVID poem. For the first time in our 5 years of marriage, my husband hears me fart. As he lets his beard grow and I let my hair go, other things get let go too. We've learned what will look like old, and we like it. Working from home, nowhere to hide, we laugh and we weep more frequently. As sickness surrounds, our foreplay prolongs its joy to drown out our sadness. On our 1/8 of an acre, we are Adam and Eve in Eden, picking wild onions, arugula, oranges, and eating them al fresco in the yard. We've joined the slow food, slow love, slow life movement, staying in the moment, taking it day by day by day.
Beautiful. Do you have any advice for women who might be looking for love?
Well, it may be very trite to say, I probably have read 20 memoirs just this last year in which people say you really need to love yourself before you can love anyone else. But one of the reasons I wrote the book was when I was engaged to get married, I would meet young career women, when we were traveling or when we were in New York. And I would say, well, I'm getting married and I'm 65. And almost universally, the single ones would say, you give me hope. Because so many of them had despaired with being able to be happily married and also work. And it's a real balancing act that I was not able to do until I was past the point of possibility of having children. I really was not ready. I was slow to grow, slow to mature. I think so much turned around for me in my 50s. So I dedicate the book to my mother, because she taught me that it's never too late to learn to love yourself and maybe somebody else too. And she was right. Uh, my mother, oddly enough, divorced my very difficult father when she was in her early 60s, and I met my husband to be in my early 60s. So it was a kind of a strange symmetry there that I felt maybe in the deepest, most subconscious part of myself that I couldn't have a happily married relationship if my mother was this unhappy. And her leaving gave me a great big piece of courage and a sense of determination that I was going to have a loving relationship, a healthy relationship.
That's great. I want to remind people that we're about to go to questions from the audience. So if you have one, just put it in the chat and Melanie will answer them for you. One more question though. I understand that you now have grandchildren and that you are a godmother. What's that like?
Well, I don't have grandchildren. I have stepchildren. I did everything very backwards. I got menopause. I thought it was over. I got Medicare. I thought, well, that's it. And then I got married. And then I got children, 2 fantastic children, prefab. My husband had a prior marriage many years ago, and they're wonderful. And I was lamenting the fact that they weren't going to give me grandchildren right away, if at all. And a young woman who I've been mentoring since she was about 11, a Hispanic girl who was illegal, who I helped get into college. I helped fill out the paperwork. I helped encourage her and gave her confidence. I was matched to her through a professional women's organization for connecting girls at risk, inner city girls at risk, with professional women who didn't have children. And we had such great chemistry, Angelica and I, that we've been friends for like 15, 16 years now. She's a great girl. I was at her wedding a couple of years ago. And when she had her baby, she asked if I would be the god grandma. So now my lap has the possibility of a child more often. I've only been able to hold her once, but it's a really like surreal, happy ending that I actually get to be a lap, for a child and hold a child. And so I'll have just about everything that I ever creatively visualized, throughout. It just took a very long time for me to get it, much longer. I don't recommend it. But I'm really happy. I've had a life I've chosen. I'm very proud of my life, and I'm proud of my book. I hope people other than you enjoy it, Maureen. I'm getting some very good reviews on Amazon, so I'm feeling optimistic about it touching the right people.
I think that's great. And your book, again, is really, really interesting, really fun. We barely touched on the depths that are in it because you get very, very personal in a lot of things. And being Valentine's Day, I think we wanted to focus on the love stories, but that's not even close to the culmination of everything that's in your book. So it's been wonderful. And as I said, we barely touched on everything. There's so much more, but I do want to go back to Daphne now. And she's going to read the questions from the audience. And more important, ladies and gentlemen out there, she's going to tell you how to order your own copy of Odd Woman Out. So now you got a taste, but I know you want more. Take it away, Daphne.
Thank you, Maureen. So I am right now going to post the link to the book so you can go online and purchase the book or the ebook or the audiobook. Lots of options for you, whichever one you're most comfortable with. And this has been really wonderful. Thank you guys for sharing all of the stories. Melanie, really beautiful stuff. So I have a couple questions from the audience. I have a very funny one. I don't know if you'll find it funny. Let's see. As a writer of a memoir, were you concerned that the book might bring back bad boyfriends from your past?
I've been fortunate enough to reform those relationships into loving kind of friendships, if only remotely. A lot of them have bought the book. I think they're looking for their names, but of course I don't name names in the book. But they may know who they are by the disappointments they provided. I hope they enjoy it.
Wonderful. How is your family handling the attention from the book? Do you feel you had to modify any of your memories?
Yes, certainly. And, I don't have that much family. I have some cousins on the East Coast who have bought the book. And my mom, who is going to be 97 at the moment, is in a health center at her assisted living. I have sent her the audiobook with some chapters edited out for her to enjoy, because I don't need her to read things that might upset her from the past. And I just hope she gets well enough to get back into her apartment and get the audiobook to listen to.
Mm.
So that's a concern. I don't know if anybody who's directly affected by it would want to read it. My dad is gone. But my cousins are really enjoying the book, and they're writing to me on Facebook. So that's really wonderful. So much they didn't know, they say to me.
Huh.
That's for sure.
Well, I hope your mother does get back into her apartment soon and is able to listen to your book. We have a question from Sheila, who wants to know what the title means. Is it only about age, or I'm not sure what that, but can you explain what the title means of your book?
Well, I always felt like the odd woman out. A lot of us feel like the odd woman out in our lives, or the odd man out. We feel left over, we feel third wheel. And I felt this a lot longer than most people, I feel. Maybe I'm mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. But I always felt like I stuck out, that I was an oddity, that I didn't conform as other people from high school, from college. And it was great when I went to New York, I started to find my milieu of quirky people. And those are the people that populate my life now. We're all quirky and we're all odd. And certainly my husband is odd, but we all kind of even out together and accept each other. And so now I don't feel so odd anymore. And the second part of the title is exposure in essays and stories. As the cover might suggest, I'm kind of exposing my heart in this book, really telling you the nitty gritty behind the persona, what it was really like inside my head.
Thank you. Another question we have is, which do you like better, acting or writing?
Well, I like being in a good story with really talented people. If that comes up, I'm always preferring to do that. I'm in these Zoom readings of plays that are being done to support the Actors Fund, and I get to work with, wonderful people. This playwright, Eugene Pack, writes great roles for women, and I've gotten to embody a number of those, and that is so much fun. It's so gratifying. And between those wonderful acting moments, I'm relieved that I have a sanctuary of my own imagination that I've tamed, that I can channel now into good writing.
It's wonderful. It's nice to be able to do all of it.
Yeah.
We have a question from Susan, who would like to know how Stan is reacting to the book and having so much detail and personal information about his and your life.
He's been very good natured about it. And most people that don't know us, right, we've fallen in love with the man because he loves this woman. And he comes off really well in the book. I think you'll see when you read it, Daphne. I just gifted it to you and you better read it.
I will.
Some of my friends say he comes off beautifully. You've really done a good service to him. So I think he's pretty content with it. He's like the mascot of the book.
We have a question from Craig, who would like to know if the man who bumped the car behind him ended up leaving a note, or did he just leave the scene?
No, while he and I were haggling about what to do, the owner of that car walked up and said, "What's going on?" And he immediately, very grandly said, "Oh, here's my card. I'm completely responsible, and please call me and I will take care of all the damages." So that was a relief, but I heard his first instinct, in moments of crisis, character gets revealed. And in that little moment of crisis, I saw his whole character laid out on a long plateau before me. So I knew that it was not going to be the love of my life. Little things, watch for them, Daphne. Daphne, just look for them as you get involved. Be careful, watch for those little red flags.
I certainly will. What would you dream? What's the big dream for this first book?
That it'll reach the right people who'll be moved by it, that they'll tell their friends, that other people will be touched and moved by it. And I would really like men and women under 50 to read the book so that they can understand how women think, how the Me Too movement has its roots in my generation as well as prior generations. I think it's educational for people who want to be in theater as well. We don't know what's going to happen with theater right now. It's a difficult time, but it's kind of a time capsule of what it was like to aspire to and to get on Broadway, and then to aspire to and to get on television, what it was like behind the scenes and what the life was like.
Thank you. We have a couple more questions, time for maybe 2 or 3. Where do you get your love of language? Because that's both in your acting and in your writing.
Oh, I love that question. Well, I was a spelling bee queen, in grammar school. And I always loved looking up words and finding out what they meant. Mostly the 2 and 3 syllable words. And I don't know, I have a real longing to preserve our language. I read a book by a linguist called Word Slut. And it's about the degeneration of the language and how neutral terms, nouns like the word bitch, have degenerated into insults for women, and how many words that used to be neutral years ago become utilized and meant as demeanments. And I'm just fascinated by language. And I don't know, I don't think my father was very loquacious in that sense, but my mom was always a good reader. And I think her love of language and voice, she was an opera singer, was very important to me young. But I have to think about that. That's great. Thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, it was a wonderful question. Let's see. So I'm just reading. Oh, if someone would like to see the slideshow again, we can talk about that in 1 second. I have one final question though, which is what's in the future? Are you planning on writing something else? I know you just wrote this book, so it's a little maybe too preemptive, but who knows? What's the 411, Melanie?
Well, I'm hoping to start auditioning again on Zoom, as some very restricted production is coming back to Los Angeles, and friends of mine are just starting to audition again. I hope there's another wonderful role in my future. I've had so many wonderful roles. One of my favorites was on Parker Lewis Can't Lose. I played this principal from hell. It was so much fun to play a villain. She could just do all the narcissistic, egocentric things that I'd always wanted to do, but it was too nice a girl to do. And I have a book in mind, since it's hard to replenish in the world when you're only interfacing with yourself and one other person. I'm not out in nature as much as I'd like. I'm not traveling. I'm not getting stimulated externally just by television programs or movies I watch shot in foreign countries. So I'm writing a book of Corona poems, and it's poems that have come to me, some funny, some elegiac, since last March. And I think it'll be a shorter book, and it won't take me as long to prepare and write, but I think it's going to be a valuable book.
That's wonderful. Well, that's very exciting. Again, thank you so much for sharing your stories and for being here today with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, I do have, yes, your postcards, I was going to say. So Melanie has a very exciting offer. If you buy the book, the ebook or the audiobook, you can send Melanie proof of your purchase and a mailing address to her email, which I will post in the chat below. And once you send her proof of purchase via email, she will send you a signed personalized autograph on a postcard. She can show you right there. Let me spotlight you, Melanie, 1 second.
Yeah, so it's a postcard bookmark, and I'll be happy to autograph and personalize it to whomever you choose. And you can use it if you actually buy the book. You can use it in the book to see if you can find your place.
There you go.
My book is actually, you can read it anecdotally. It's not a long chronological piece. It's episodic. So
wonderful. Well, I'm going to post that right now for everyone, your email address where they can send the again, proof of purchase and a mailing address for you to send out to them. Here it is in the chat below, playdate444@gmail.com. All right, wonderful. Well, now I'm going to send it over to Rhonda, who has some things that she would like to share with us. Rhonda, are you there?
Yes, I am. Well, I just want to say thank you, Daphna, for sending it off my way. And thank you, Melanie. We love you. You're wonderful. It was such a lovely hour to spend with you, to get to know you. I've worked with you, but I got to learn so much more from reading your book and also from listening to you today. And Maureen, you did a fantastic job. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you bought a virtual ticket, we love you. Thank you for supporting what we're doing, and we appreciate it very, very much. I want to also let you know that a week from today, we're reprising this unbelievable tour de force that we put out there on January 31st called Stories from the Violins of Hope. We're replaying it because we had like 250 people that wrote to us and said, when are you doing it again? So we're doing a watch party at 2 p.m. a week from today. And that show is all about this amazing family of luthiers who repair violins from the Holocaust to give those who no longer have voice through their music. And it's a theatrical event with music from the Los Angeles Jewish Symphony. Fabulous, fabulous show. Please, please, please join us a week from today. Also, special treat, February 27th, we're doing a Purim event with Temple Isaiah, and we have a bunch of pieces that we'll be presenting along with some music from the clergy. And Melanie will be doing one of her most famous stories called Indecent Sexposure, about her visit to the Hustler store. It is hysterical and funny, and she'll be a part of that show that night, just happenstance. And then on, that's February 27th. And then lastly, we open Family Matters, the second salon of our season, the matters of family and why family matters. And that is on March 6th. We invite you to be a part of that. I've just finished it. Susan and I are just in the middle of casting it. And it is really, really one of our most powerful shows. So please, please, please join us. And once again, thank you for joining us. Daphna, should we take it out with the slideshow? And then hope to see you next Sunday if you haven't seen it. If you have, spread the word. And again, Melanie, we love you. Thank you so, so much. You are so generous with your time, with your stories. Just thank you. Daphna.
All right, well, I am going to play the slideshow again. As Rhonda said, thank you all so much for coming. Have a great Valentine's Day.
I am getting such attention. Everybody gives a mention. Get a mansion, get a pension. I'm getting famous. They follow me, they swallow me, fighting for a piece of me. But my act is all they see. I'm getting famous. All this crap with people clapping, feeling scared of all that's happening. Blame the fame for scaring life away. Please love me, not what I do. Love me if I'm no one to. Please see through my screen of fame and stay. Curtains drop around a hurt that no big name or money can set free. When all I wanted was for him to see how many others would love me. See, they love me, see, they love me, see, they love me. my show. So you won't know how lonely I'll be when you go. Boxed inside a TV show. But getting famous. My name is up in neon lights. Too bright to get near in the night. Fame smiles days and sleeps in fancy silk designer label for rights. See, they love me. See, they love me. See, they love me. Won't you love